Hey everybody, welcome. I am Artosis, of course, and this is going to be some analysis of the AlphaStar games that we saw in London just a few days ago. Of course, I was over there hosting the event. It was a lot of fun, and I did my best to analyze the games live as I was seeing them, with Mapu observing and talking with Roddy. Of course, we didn't get to see all the games while we were there. We didn't know what to expect exactly, and things like that. So I'm very excited to kind of finally be home and be able to go over these. So I have some beginning ideas, and I'm not like completely sold or looking to prove any of these things. These are just some things that I've noticed so far. I took a quick glance at some of the replays yesterday, but I didn't get to like look at them too deeply or anything. So I'll be going over a bunch of them today and talking about that. So anyways, some of the beginning ideas that I have here, right? The AlphaStar agents that played TLO were not particularly good at macro or micro. I got through all the TLO replays yesterday, and while I was watching, that's one thing that I really noticed. They didn't seem to be very good at control or at macro, so it was kind of interesting. How do they win? And it's always an interesting thing to see how someone wins in a game of StarCraft, right? Because it's not always micro, it's not always macro, it's not always good decision making. There's all sorts of different things that can occur with that. So I'm kind of interested to re-look at that a little bit later. Like, how did they win? What did they do exactly? And I'm sure a lot of people will point out things like TLO is not a main Protoss player or anything like that, but that's not really what I'm talking about here. TLO is a very good player, so for AlphaStar to beat him at all, I think is a very interesting thing to look into. Alright, so for agents that were good at micro or macro, we definitely saw, at least I'm certain that we saw some godlike micro games, which those might end up being the least exciting games to kind of look at, but how do they get themselves into that position? Because no matter how good you are at one thing, to be able to get there is another thing altogether. Alright. The higher probe count seemed consistent across all agents. Why is this good or bad? It's kind of an interesting thing. Like, at least all the games I looked at yesterday, it stayed very, very consistent. I believe, I watched, like, for instance, out of the TLO games, the AI never went below 15 probes on the mineral patches, even when getting the probes on the gas, and then some of them were even higher than that. Obviously, they didn't stop making probes for a long time. And for me, my first impression upon watching the AlphaStar games live was that was the most interesting thing that I saw, because if you have a whole bunch of different agents learning, right, and they're all coming up with different strategies and trying different ways to play, yet all of them have this thing in common of oversaturating one base, what does that mean? Obviously we can't tell for certain if this is a good or bad thing at the moment, but it's certainly an interesting thing to see that all of these agents that have played a huge amount of StarCraft have decided that they want to do. What did AlphaStar do well to win each game? I think that this is the main thing I'm excited to really look into. And if there are patterns there, of course. Because obviously we saw some games where, for instance, I think the game that's probably sticking out in people's minds for the most part is where there was a spike in APM and we had insane Blinkstalker Micro on like 4 sides. Again, I think that might be the least interesting game in a lot of ways, because it is just kind of like really, really good in micro. But the thing is, AlphaStar won 10 out of 11 games, right? And it wasn't all looking exactly like that. So what was it doing well? And then we have what are interesting moves that AlphaStar did. Because I saw a few moves that I thought were pretty interesting. Let me actually grab my notes off the wall. I was kind of sticking them up already. The game's already looked up. Okay. And I'll talk more about all these ideas. I can see people getting a little bit tilted about things like probe oversaturation. But that's something that can be talked about a little bit later. Again, these are just some ideas I have kind of going into this. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not super duper I guess interested in proving any of this right or proving anything one way or another. I just want to look at the games and see what can be learned. Okay, I'm going to start in a place that I guess will be seem strange to people, but I'm going to start in Mana game number 3. So let's get into that in just 1 second here. It's loading up. All right. So, just a moment here, guys, and let me switch my things. This is game 3. AlphaStar versus Mana. Okay. So we have Mana down here in the bottom right, AlphaStar in the top left. We're obviously just going to be watching what AlphaStar does. Don't really care what Mana is up to too much, except for when AlphaStar scouts Mana. Okay, let's get this going. All right, maybe we can start off a little bit quicker. So this is one of the very few games where AlphaStar actually decided to go for the wall. Not those handsome balls, but it's okay. Okay, so this, here we go. We just hit 50 energy on the Chrono Boost. One of the things that I've been looking at is how many times it's chronoing the probes, and I think I've found all of them have done 2 so far, but I've seen some do 3. But anyways, we'll see about that. Alright, so far, I mean, this looks pretty normal, I would say. One thing I guess that you can notice is that the probe saturation probably could be a little bit different, right? It's 17 on minerals and then 1 on this gas, 2 on this gas. But this is really kind of consistent behavior from AlphaStar throughout, I guess I haven't seen 2 of the games so far, 2 replays. I believe this is actually one of them. Or maybe it's game... No, it was game 5 actually is the other one I haven't seen. I've seen this one. But anyways, just kind of interesting. Just to point out. Don't know what any of this means yet. So see 18. And then only 2 probes on each gas. By the way, one thing I did notice throughout that I continued to look at, the oversaturation, like every game, AlphaStar has a higher income. And I mean, this is not a big surprise to anyone. We all know that 16 out of 16 is not completely perfect saturation, but it's very close. But the additional probes, like many of the games, it was sitting around 20 in the main base, and that was giving a reasonable income boost over AlphaStar's opponents. So again, whether you like it or not, this is kind of the fact that this continued to occur is a cool little thing. All right, let's put it back on here. Okay, so AlphaStar just went in, scouted. Didn't really do a whole lot, huh? Let's go back and see exactly what AlphaStar did when it got in the base. Wait, where? There it is. Okay, so hold on. Let's go back just a little bit more. Okay, so it came right up. Went directly in. Now, I think most professional Protoss players will scout after the second gateway. AlphaStar scouted after the core. Obviously, you can get in before any gateway units are done. Just mine minerals. That's kind of interesting as well. The fact that it mined the minerals, right? Why did it mine the minerals? Yeah, I wonder if maybe there was like probes that blocked it before, right? You have to mineral walk to get through anything in the way. But it actually gets in, mines the minerals, and leaves before the units are made. I guess if these had been chronoed in adepts or something like that, it would have been able to get the probe. But not a whole lot of intel to get other than this pylon down here. So we're up to 20 probes now. I always find the chronos very interesting as well. It's like it wants this third stalker a little bit quicker. Okay, so see, now this is what really gets me, right? There's a lot of moves that AlphaStar does that I can't figure out a good reason for them, right? You don't want to just rationalize in everything, but I just wonder, right? The stalkers just moved down, and then as the probe came back, they turned around and walked back a little bit, and then they turned around again. And there's behaviors like this actually pretty often. And I can't come up with much of anything that would really explain it. Like, the only thing that pops in my mind is this could be like a slight thing where it's just checking back to make sure it, no adepts are making it by or any probes are going by or anything like that. We did just see a little movement where it brought these two stalkers back a little bit to let this one catch up. That's obviously something humans do a lot. Now, right now, it has no idea that this expansion is up. It did see the pylon. I don't know if it makes connections like that. But I would, personally. I'd be like, oh, he's made a pylon there. So that's really good micro. That's really good micro from AlphaStar. All right, let's take a look at what AlphaStar is up to during this, right? One second. Yeah, so this is game 3. It's making a Stargate here after the Nexus. And just continually making stalkers. It's sitting on that 20 probes. That's a very common number throughout these replays. Let's take a look at the income as well. But Mana actually has 20 right now also. So it's not much of a difference. And obviously, these numbers fluctuate. They don't just sit at those numbers. For anyone who doesn't know what income charts look like, or this little income display, these will go up and down. And like, for instance, if you have the same amount of probes as your opponent, like they'll pass you and then you'll go lower than them and things like that as well. So this is not the end all numbers that you're looking at right here. Just fantastic micro. Just ridiculous. My God. It's just such good micro. It's crazy. That was just crazy. All right, hold on. I wanna rewind it just a little bit. Okay, let's take a look. So the current APM of AlphaStar here. Damn. Peaking at 507 is the highest number I've seen. Oh, 504. Yeah, that micro is just so strong. Yeah, that seemed to be kind of a weakness for AlphaStar throughout. It felt like sentries were good against AlphaStar. A lot of the moves it's making, like it totally out micros in situation like Stalker versus Stalker, but as soon as you have something like sentries, it seems like it would fall down. Some of the TLO games were like that as well, where it was just like shoving its way up here. All right, so let's take a look at home here for AlphaStar. Looks like Phoenixes and Stalkers being rallied down to this army. Let's take a look at worker counts. Similar worker counts. Okay. Kind of interesting, right? It poked in again here, and there are a couple more units than there were before. That seems to be something that we've seen AlphaStar do a lot throughout the series. Was like it will check what you have and then retreat because it knows it can't win. Like if you look at this army, right, then you look at that army. I mean, I don't think any human would want to engage this with exactly that. Maybe you add one Phoenix in or something. Stalker, another Phoenix. Isn't that interesting? Still oversaturation by 2. Oversaturation. It's really not that much over, but obviously 2 more probes down here would do a little bit better. But you do lose minerals in that travel distance. 2 on each gas. The first 2 on each gas are the most efficient for sure. So I kind of, in a way, understand that. But this is something that I feel like I'm seeing consistently over and over again from AlphaStar, is an almost continual rally to its opponent. There's not a whole lot of powering going on or anything like that. Most of the intel that AlphaStar is getting is not through scouting, it's through pressure. And again, I'm not, there's no way, I don't want anyone to think that I'm trying to pretend I know how AlphaStar thinks, but that's something that we see a lot within StarCraft. Is, you know, if you can't scout, one of the ways to figure out what your opponent has is to keep pressure on. So. Wait a minute. 1 second, guys. Okay. Yeah, so there's like a lot of poking and prodding in here. And obviously, this unit composition is getting pretty strong compared to this one. Let's see what these Phoenix do. Not a whole lot. Alright, so AlphaStar up by 5 probes now. It's pretty significant. Okay. Now, here's something that's going on that I find very interesting as well. AlphaStar this entire time has been on 2 gateways and then 1 Stargate. Obviously, the second Stargate is a bit bizarre. We don't really see anyone play exactly like that. At least when we did see heavier Phoenix trying to counter this type of stuff, it was a long time ago, and it didn't look anything like this, so we'll disregard that for now. Whereas Mana's play here, obviously, as he is a human, he is playing like a human, right? Like, he went for the 2 gates, the expansion, got the Robo up, he held the Nexus. It was very good decision-making and movements from Mana. And then he adds a couple gates, right? This is pretty normal play. I mean, he's made a pretty solid composition. There's something about this that I just find very weird, right? Like, if you just... No one continually makes Stalkers off of 2 gates. It seems, like it's going to be countered, right? Like, you're gonna get countered pretty hard here. You're not getting Blink. You're not adding a gateway count that's large enough. It almost reminds me a little bit of, like, Classics PVT before Maru slayed him last year when he was at, like, 15-1 as far as matches against Terran go. The way that Classic was playing in that matchup was he'd get 3 gateways rather early, and he would make a bunch of units off of them. And every Terran was doing timing attacks that this countered very, very well, or were being so greedy that he could put on pressure. Now, as soon as someone slowed down and, like, just kind of defended normally and did not attack into Classic, he started having trouble with that because he was making so many units off 3 gateways that this would do things like delay his 3rd Nexus and delay the addition of additional gates, right? So if you're not adding your gates in time, you're not going to be able to produce enough. Like, rather than have this many Stalkers, you could be on, 5 gates right now, and then be making 5 units at a time instead of 2. And then eventually you're going to pass where you're at with this, right? So I guess that's why I'm looking at this as kind of a weird thing. It's just continually making Stalkers off of a couple gateways. And it's making the Phoenixes. So, I mean, I think if you look at the Phoenixes, right, these can help to take out some of the important units of your opponent. And overall, you have more firepower than your opponent. This part's awesome. Look at this Phoenix Micro. It's just out of control. It tries diving on the prison, but Mana pulls back nicely. Just awesome. Great control. So Mana still has a ridiculously scary army here. Okay, so looking back here, Mana's now up at 4 gates and a Robo. This is against 2 gates and a couple Stargates. Now I wonder, the thing is, Mana has made a very strong composition. If you pull back here, that thing that I was talking about, right, from, like, for instance, Classics PVT that this is reminding me of a little bit. Are you going to be able to utilize your additional gates well to gain the advantage in that way? Like, Stalkers should become worse later on. Of course, we know from a different game of AlphaStar that it will eventually micro over 30 Stalkers at once, so maybe not. Okay, let's take a look. Okay, so again, AlphaStar kind of pulling away, running every time it seems like it should lose a battle. And obviously you look at these Stalkers, you look at this, that's pretty scary. 9 suckers against 14. Okay. Let's take a look. Okay. So AlphaStar immediately pulls probes. Kind of an interesting force field. Obviously, Mana with some very good force fields. Let's slow this way down. So AlphaStar waiting until the last possible moment to strike, right? It utilizes, you know, an attack from this angle, plus the probes and a couple units coming down from this angle. Obviously, great lifts. There wasn't a whole lot to the micro in this battle, I think. Yeah, I wonder if Mana sits at home, can this unit composition be used as efficiently by AlphaStar? I can speed this up. It seems like the game is over to me here. Okay, so the Dark Shrine is here. Let's take off Mana's vision. One thing I do wonder about is how it takes DTs into account. Okay, it sees Dark Shrine now. Let's see if it puts up a robo. Okay, the game actually ends too quickly. There was one game where Mana went for Twilight, and a robo started just in time to get an observer, but AlphaStar hadn't scouted it, but like it was reasonable the time he got it. That was in game 2. Maybe we'll go back and look at that later. Okay, this was, let's kind of think here about this game. All right, so Mana 3. All right. So 20 probes in the main. Very solid stalker micro. First the expansion. All right. So this is the way that I think about game number 3 here. So it had that over probe saturation once again. 20 seems to be a very common number that I'm finding in these games. The micro was just absolutely fantastic at the natural base. That was really, really strong. It went Stargate and Phoenixes when there was like a Mortal Sentry out, which isn't necessarily terrible. Obviously it worked out here well with fantastic micro. And it waited very patiently to crush the attack of Mana. I think, for me, the big question of this game, what does it do if Mana doesn't attack? It, 20 probes in the main. Very solid stalker micro. First the expansion. 20 probes in the main. Very solid stalker micro. First the expansion. 20 probes in the main. Very solid stalker micro. First the expansion. 20 probes in the main. Very solid stalker micro. First the expansion. 20 probes in the main. Very solid stalker micro. First the expansion. 20 probes in the main. Very solid stalker micro. First the expansion. 20 probes in the main. Very solid stalker micro. First the expansion. 20 probes in the main. Very solid stalker micro. First the expansion. 20 probes in the main. Very solid stalker micro. First the expansion. 20 probes in the main. Very solid stalker micro. First the expansion. 20 probes in the main. Very solid stalker micro. First the expansion. 20 probes in the main. Very solid stalker micro. First the expansion. 20 probes in the main. Very solid stalker micro. First the Okay. So that's what we have for Monoverse AlphaStar in Game 3. Definitely thinking a lot about this. Let's go back and take a look at my beginning ideas again. So this agent I think we have to put down as being very, very good at micro. Its macro was good too. It was spending its money. Still, is this an optimal thing to skip adding production even if your micro is that good, right? I guess in a situation like Stalker for Stalker it could be, but there's flaws occurring because of Force Field. Force Field kind of allows you to dictate a battle when there's no blink or anything like that. There's not going to be a very good counter. Like we saw a few additional Stalkers go down for AlphaStar because of a good Force Field by Mana. Okay, let's see. It did, what did it do good? Micro, pressure. Yeah, bad. Force fields. Okay. Okay. I think that's good for that game for now. Let's go into the next Mana game here. Okay. So we have Mana down here. Up here is AlphaStar. Now I believe that this is the notorious Blink micro game. Now this one's scouted only out to here and back. Maybe this was an anti-cannon rush scout. I'm not sure. And again, you can see kind of oversaturating minerals versus not having gases fully saturated. Both on 23 probes. Let's take a look at the income. There is a slight difference here. Let's slow it down a little. Yeah. It's just like a thing that I'm seeing pretty commonly throughout them, that there is like a pretty noticeable income difference when it's you know, I don't know what the number goes to, but each game so far, right, I've clicked on the income tab at this time and seen that AlphaStar generally has better mineral income, and then obviously less gas income because it's going very late to max out its gases. This is actually the latest I've seen it max out its gases yet. Is AlphaStar just not scouting?
The firstborn shall persevere.
It's a very good scout by Mana. Turns out he's quite good at this game. It's kind of interesting that it changes its direction off to the side. The movement of the adepts looks very human. Good save. One of the faster expansions this game too. Now, hold on, we gotta go back and look at that. Because this is something that has popped up a lot in the games as well. There's actually a surprising amount of supply blocks. Okay, so supply block begins 317. I guess it's not that long, but still. Yeah, it's not that long. I shouldn't be too critical. Still, it's... Let's check that income tab again. So 17 probes, and obviously there's a shield battery in there. Then 24 probes. And obviously that'll fluctuate. Goes up and down on both sides. But you can see that there is more income for the more probes. So just straight going up. The only thing that AlphaStar has scouted so far this game. That's it, right? You see this pylon here. There's a wall. There's stalkers, multiple stalkers. I think that AlphaStar saw 4 stalkers, right? Yeah, because 2 were chasing the adepts over here, and then it shaded and there were 2 here. So I'm not sure exactly how it discounts the possibility of Dark Templar here. Maybe it's doing some sort of advanced counting of minerals and gas, but it feels to me like you could have snuck in Dark Templar, personally. Five gates. So different from the previous one, right? Where we are on 2 gates the entire time, pure production the entire time. Well, that is a quality oracle right there. So that's interesting, because it feels like this version of AlphaStar has left itself kind of open to multiple things. Like, that was a quality oracle. I think everyone can agree with that. 5 kill oracle that gets out with green health. Good stuff. You know, obviously, if there was, you know, I guess that this very gateway heavy thing is going to be fine against like Robo or Blink. I don't think that that's how AlphaStar thinks, though. So I wonder what the meaning of this is. Interesting. 4 probes up still. We lost 5. Five gate stalker into Blink. What a world. So, looks like 6-gate blink at the end of the day here. And that, I mean, I've seen that before. That's like that's always been a build that's been considered all in. It's very, very old. No one really does it because Immortals are pretty strong. Yeah, so I'm still kind of wondering to myself, I guess, right? Because there's just absolutely no scouting intel coming out of AlphaStar. So again, like a Dark Templar could have been pretty problematic, I would say. And it seems to me that the scouting has been small enough that you probably could have snuck that in, right? It is a possibility. Maybe that's one of the weaknesses of this one or something. Okay, let's take a look at what AlphaStar is doing right here. This kind of fan out of units. I've seen a few games that looked that AlphaStar did things that looked kind of like this. Like for instance, let me see if I can find which game it was. My notes are so messy. Hold on. Game 3 against TLO. AlphaStar. It felt like he swept the map before attacking. Like kind of spread units out. Like over here and over in this area. You know, which is, again, not an uncommon thing for a human to do before attacking across the map. Like if you're going for a kill, you want to check and make sure that your opponent's army is not over on your side. Now look, this one is actually avoiding walking up here, right? It just got chased back by an army that had sentries in it, and then it used this group, it walked all the way around, it's spotting this area, and now it's going to come up the ramp. Now that is a pretty impressive improvement over some of the games that occurred earlier. Because obviously, if this army is standing at the top of that ramp and you walk up, you can lose a bunch of stalkers. Obviously, take a bunch of damage. You have blink. Maybe you get away with them, but it's not a good move, as we all know. Okay, so at this point, Mana is going for a Dark Shrine. Jeez. This is such a messy attack. So crazy. Alright, let's check the gateway count. So it went up to +2 Blink Stalkers, 7 gates. Lots of observers being made. Huh. Okay. I think that that was actually the least interesting game, in my opinion, in many ways. It was also, I think, that maybe the strongest that we saw. Not entirely sold that it's the strongest, but let's take a look. All right. It was like 4 gate stalker to start. Or was it 3 gate? I'm trying to remember. Yeah, it was 4 gate stalker. After pretty fast expo. 6 gate blink. And that was pretty much it. So good. God, micro. Bad. I would say it wasn't really scouting. Okay. So these are kind of my impressions of Game 4, but again, I'm not super interested in Game 4 here. Yeah, like the micro was really good. Here, let me actually go in game again. Obviously expanded nicely. We saw some of those same probe things that we've been talking about. But it seems like this entire game, in a lot of ways, relied upon micro, right? Because initially it scouted there were 4 stalkers. So when it expanded, it went up to 4 gates. I don't think that that's necessarily bad. There were even points in time in PvP where you might do something like that to try to hold off your opponent going for something like a 4 gate. It felt like it didn't just feel like it, but it wasn't really scouting much in the mid game. It did have observers ready when the DT got there just in time, and it did that in another game against TLO, where observers were just in time. So I don't know if there's like if it just has times that it starts its robo, or like it's trying to read what's going on. But yeah, it seemed like its defense was based upon A, having enough probes that when the Oracle flew in and killed 5, it didn't really matter. And B, just kind of being able to utilize really good micro. It had good spreads of stalkers earlier on. We can probably jump back to some of these times. I think probably the Nexus was around 3 minutes, maybe? Yeah. Let's jump a little bit further ahead of that. Right, so... Oops. Okay, so the Oracle hits, right? And this is right when it's going up. Oh, it's actually going to 5 gates. Damn. So now that it knows that Oracles are out, look at this, right? 3 stalkers in the main, 2 at the natural, warping in some more. See? Okay. So let's fix this. 5 gate stalker. Once Oracle comes, it defends well versus it. Okay. Still pretty interesting, I would say. So we'll be going to Mana Game 5 in a minute here. And before we dive into that, I want to take a quick look at some of my beginning ideas and questions. So this was definitely an agent that was good at micro and macro. How did it allow itself to get into that position? Okay, well, it didn't know that the Oracle was coming, right? And a 5-kill Oracle can be pretty devastating. Obviously, a shield battery would have been better there than losing 5 probes. But it did have enough probes that it kind of just ate that damage and didn't care. Again, higher probe count was consistent. In this case, was it good or bad? Okay, well, let's think about that for a second. 5 probes killed. There was no shield battery. But it had so many probes that it was always equal or above where Mana was at. you know, it's interesting, right? Because I don't suggest that anyone stop making a shield battery in their main. It seems like a very good idea to stifle an oracle coming in, but the overproduction of probes, if an oracle does not come in, the overproduction of probes is actually much better than that shield battery, is it not? If you think about it for a second, right? You just transfer them to your natural expansion. Um, the economies between StarCraft 1 and 2 are definitely a bit different. StarCraft 2's economy is actually a little bit like the balancing of the bases, like the way that in the times at which you have to expand, I think are more difficult in StarCraft 2. But I think that the balancing of the bases is obviously easier because it's more direct how many workers you need on each base, and it also tells you how many are actually mining. But what I'm trying to get to here is in StarCraft 1, for instance, you are continually making workers with both Terran and Protoss for a very long time. Oftentimes it'll be for the first 10, 11 minutes of the game. You'll just nonstop make the workers, right? So anyways, because transfers are such a big deal in StarCraft 1. Like, you really want your base saturated when you're as soon as you're getting it, or as close to as soon as you're getting it as possible. Speed with which you saturate a base lets you build up more. So I don't know. The probe saturation thing continues to be something that interests me here. All right. What are some interesting moves that it did? Actually, I should put that down. That is, I'm glad that I went through that. Stalkers saw mortal sentry army, then walked around a long way to check ramp before rest walked up. That was a very interesting thing that we saw, in my opinion. That was very different from a lot of the games that we saw previously, where it was like just walking up a ramp and getting force fielded and having a hard time. And I think it even had blink at that point, so that was cool. Okay, cool. I think it's time to check out the next game. So this is going to be game number 5. Alright, so that's Mana, and AlphaStar is down here. Actually, have not seen this game yet. Alright. Okay. This is certainly uncommon. Okay. Oh, that is so interesting. Oh my god. A forward gateway, not a proxy, but a forward gateway, and it was trying to gas steal. Huh. Huh. And it made a pylon. Huh. Hold on. I want to watch that again. Here we go. Wow. Yeah, and then it even tried to take the other gas. And now it has to take its own gases. That was following its player camera, by the way, whatever that means. Wow, that's fascinating. Why did it make the pylon? That seems to be about as worthless as anything could ever be. And now it's sitting here with one gate on low ground. Huh. This is the lowest probe saturation that we've really... oh, I guess it was chasing a probe. Probably VVY. Oh, wow. It's not overmaking probes at all. I guess because it's a rush build? Wow. This is so weird. No warp gate. Roddy would be proud. This is insane. What I'm watching here is so crazy. It's building that pylon there. Like, I mean, why was this pylon there? Was that specifically to buy time? Like, is that... Do you expect for your opponent to show their units there? It's, you know, how people will put a pylon here, right? And they see the first units that pop out of your gateways. And they can kind of know what to expect. Oftentimes it gets canceled and whatnot. I don't know if this was some sort of mind game type thing. I have no idea. What? I want to go back and check this. Terrible saturation. Does Mana actually lose this game? Yeah, some missed microing here by Mana for sure, and definitely good microing by AlphaStar. If you were telling me that I was watching Haas here, I might believe you. So weird to have a Phoenix there. Didn't ever get work, eh? Oops. Okay. That was an interesting one for sure. I believe that this was the only game where we didn't have probe oversaturation, but I'll have to double check on that. Was that pylon something to buy time for the forward shield battery? Because obviously, if that pylon is not there, the stalkers are down, looking around, right? Maybe scouting. Hide prox longer, because it might not only be for that, but this is a very interesting thing, right? What could this? What was that pylon about? Because it's not something that makes a lot of sense. The thing is, it's not even scary when you really think about it. I mean, I guess if someone was rushing Warp Gate, but that takes so long, and Warpins take so long, it doesn't seem like something that is that scary, but I mean, AlphaStar put that down, and it actually did end up helping it. The pylon helped it, no matter how you look at this. That pylon was a worthwhile sacrifice. Skip the Warp Gate. Got Phoenix. And the Phoenix helped a lot. Huh. Alright, what was good about it? Good micro for sure. It was good micro. What was bad about it? I don't know. Risky? Was it risky strategy, I guess? This was a very weird game. I want to look at some other things that might be mind games, right? Or like baits or something like this. Actually, I have some notes here for some of the other games that I went over already. Hold on 1 second, guys. So TLO Game 2 had some cancels that were interesting. Ah, yes. TLO Game 5. Let's go look at that. This had one of the most interesting things, I think, throughout the series. So let's look at TLO Game 5. Alright, so this is AlphaStar versus TLO game number 5. I want to fast forward to a certain part to show everybody. that I thought was just... There was like 2 really amazing parts here. This is actually a very cheesy game that we're about to see. See, TLO is going to attempt to cheese, right? Does not see the pylon. Well placed by TLO. There we go. Okay, sees the shield battery. Now, let's slow this down a little bit. Obviously, you take out the probe first. Everyone knows that. Okay, watch this. Watch this. Watch this. Right? Okay, so the most scary thing here, truthfully, right? If he gets units in your base, the shield battery's worthwhile. Let's look at how low the shield battery gets. I wish I could make it slower than normal. Right. 30. Gets down to 5 hit points. It went down to 5. Okay? Retarget to the pylon. Targeting pylon. Teal allows it to finish. Instant retarget to kill. AlphaStar made a move here that allows his opponent to make a mistake. Chills. This is the type of thing that you'll see players do to each other, human players do to each other. Where obviously, you know, he could have... I guess maybe he could have killed it there, but he let it finish, right? So I don't know. It's an interesting thing because obviously that's a choice that AlphaStar made. I mean, what else can I say? I guess you could just try to kill it while it's warping in, and it's going to be a similar value to you, right? But you do get money back if you cancel. It was just I saw that and thought that was really weird because it was definitely on purpose. Yeah, no. So to make clear what I'm saying here, right? If you cancel, you get back 75% of the minerals. Either way, like if you kill it while it's warping in or you kill it after it's warped in, you're getting rid of 100% of the minerals. But the way that it did that it stopped and then targeted the pylon immediately. I don't know. Like, was it waiting? Was that some sort of bait to let it finish? Was he assuming it would get canceled? Maybe it thought that it was hitting the full shot, but the shield battery was still warping in, and thus gaining that extra health. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what that's all about. Hey, you. How are you doing? You want to watch some AlphaStar with me?
No.
No? But that's what we're watching today. You get the hiccups?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, I thought that was kind of a neat little targeting thing. I would imagine that it would be the most simple explanation, so it could just be that possibly it thought it was going to kill it, and the health was raising up because it was warping in. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. Anyways, obviously for damage efficiency, you want to kill it right away because it's gaining more health. But I just thought that was kind of interesting, right? Okay, there's also there's a beautiful micro moment coming up as well. So watch this. Alright, so here's TLO. He's gonna force his way up here. Watch this, right? See how this is being attacked? Watch. Here we come. Ready? This is beautiful micro that we're about to see.
Yeah.
Here it comes. Pull back. Last shot.
Yeah.
Exactly last shot, yeah. Anyways, I thought that this was interesting enough to mention at least. Ooh, you gotta go? Oh, oh.
You're a naughty girl, too.
You naughty girl.
Baby. No.
You gonna put those on?
We're in straight here as soon as I open up one to
Alright, little girl. I need my headset.
Come on, nappy time.
Oh, careful, careful. There you go.
Come on, quick release. Come on. Come on. Where's the milk?
Okay. So I thought that that was kind of interesting, but I'm not sold that this was necessarily a debate or anything. It's just that it stopped right before the last second of killing that. And the last hit on the pylon there was pretty awesome too. Because, see, the last hit on the pylon kind of makes it more interesting on the shield battery also, because that was like exactly last hit. When there's a pylon in your main, right, and there's 4 stalkers coming, that's like a death situation if you screw that up. But it took minimal damage on the stalker retreating and got its last shot at full range off, so it was just very well calculated there. I'd like to know about that, how that worked. AlphaStar versus Kilo K5. That seems, the more I think about it, the most likely answer would be a miscalculation based on the gaining of health, but I'm not sure. Okay. Let me see what other interesting things we have. Oh, let's watch Mana's 6th game. I didn't get to look at that replay yet. Just a minute, just loading up. So again, we see, I think most of the games of AlphaStar, it didn't saturate its gas unless it had at least 15 on minerals. We see that again in this game. Continued probe production. So it hasn't actually seen the tech yet.
Dimensional strings attuned.
I thought that that was an okay move, personally. I think Roddy disagreed with me on that. Yeah. Maybe I should talk about that a little bit. So your first Oracle for 2 sentries that are sitting there. Yeah, I believe one of them had already sent hallucination from mana. So that's a fair point. That obviously getting it before that would be really good. Whether it did or not, I think that that trade was good. And here's kind of my logic behind this. So AlphaStar, specifically, one of its biggest weaknesses seems to be force fields. So much of its game is based off of microing stalkers, and force field is something that can negate micro, as we all know and love about the Sentry. So, for instance, having one more Oracle right now won't help as much, but if it's 5 Stalker versus 5 Stalker, I think everyone would bet on AlphaStar. If it's 5 Stalker versus 5 Stalker 2 Sentry, that's going to be different. And obviously, Mana's making some more Sentries, but keeping that Sentry count low, I think, is really reasonable. And yeah, if you look at the overall cost, technically, the Oracle's worth a little bit more because gas is worth more than minerals. But I don't think that that's it. I think it has less to do with that value and more to do with sentries can mess things up for AlphaStar a little bit more than anything else can. All right, so let's slow this down. So it's in here. Now, obviously, if it had 2 Oracles here, that would be a lot better, wouldn't it? Just such a good micro. This game on 3 gates, consistent Oracle production. Now, again, if there were 2 more sentries here, you're losing all of these stalkers in that move. And this is one of the ways that it seems that many of these games, AlphaStar is gaining advantages and getting itself into a position where it's confident that it can take the game, is it's continually out-microing. So, you know, pushing up here, picking off sentries, picking off stalkers consistently, I think it wants there to be less units out so that it can really utilize that micro. Whereas, you know, obviously micro in an army of 200-200 versus 200-200 is going to be less important than 10 versus 10. You can kind of make more happen when there's less there. So yeah, the more I think about it, the more I think that Oracle trade into the 2 Sentries was quite good for AlphaStar in this particular situation. Both killed the verse 8. That's not too bad. Now this expansion timing definitely feels different from other games that AlphaStar played. Feels like this is a much more humanoid expansion. And it's also making an interesting amount of oracles. Don't normally see this many oracles, really. So it's made 4 total. 1 died, of course, killing the 2 Sentries early on. Wow. 17 probes right now. And here's where it starts to bug out. Okay, so this was an interesting maneuver we just saw. Let's go back. Take a look at that again. Okay, so AlphaStar has been flying around with the oracles, doing some reasonable damage. I think it's got a pretty good idea of the size of the army. It knows its opponent's on 2 bases. Let's see how many gates it has. It's at 5 gates right now. Okay, let's watch this. AlphaStar's point of view. Now, where are these stalkers going? At first I was like, oh, is it just going to attack? I'm not sure. Let's look. Okay, it turns around a little bit. This is a little bit of a map sweep again. Talked about that in a previous game here already today, and it's definitely something that happened against TLO. That's what it looks like to me a little bit, right? Spreading out a little bit. This is not perfect by any means, but what is it doing if it walks around here and then it's like, okay, go out in both directions? Again, there were some better ones where I saw it go up like very many different places, but you kind of want to see if anything's on its way to your base when you move out. Okay, let's see what this looks like now when mana really messes with it. So it has blink now. Doesn't see where the prism is. Okay, everything leaves. There is an observer right here. That is a huge army. 26 stalkers. Ooh, very scary. Here comes that prism. The second it sees the prism, it turns around with everything. Oh, that's just so interesting.
Oracle perceiving.
Now this, to me, looked like the buggiest, glitchiest thing right? This reminds me of killing 8 computers on BGH. Like, the way that it just keeps turning around and it's not leaving any units behind, it's not making a Phoenix. It's like Mana just figured something out that it has no idea what to do against. Look, we don't... Yeah.
Dimensional strings attuned.
Because a human would have just made 1 Phoenix here, or left some Stalkers up here, either one. You just leave enough Stalkers to jump onto the shuttle, the prism, and you're good. Because I honestly think the plan was to just go attack. Okay, scouts, no third base. Oh, time to go home again. All the way from up there. And at this point, Mana's army is getting so strong. Yeah, it's totally bugged out. There's no idea what to do here. It's just so funny. It keeps blinking. I love it. Yeah, you're not gonna win this one. Jeez. Just brutal. What, I have like 35 Stalkers to start? Never gonna happen. I was wondering where these units all went. This is... Oh my gosh. Because that's what Roddy and I were kind of saying during the cast. Like, where is the army? Where is it? It's not doing anything. That's funny, because it had scouted the 3rd previously, if you recall, right? It had gotten up to the 3rd base when the prism came back in again, then it turned all the way back home. And now it went up checking this location. Maybe it thought, oh, you didn't take this base, maybe you took that base. I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but obviously if you come and check this location, it's an insta free kill. Not that it has too much of a chance to win the game from here, because this army is just ridiculously strong. Yeah, look at that, it's like a small group here. It's very bad against force fields. Having this many oracles was so interesting. What was it? Such a bizarre plan. Okay. I love it. Okay. Let's see. What else was I saying was interesting? The glitching. Okay, good. Micro was good this game, right? Micro. And then Oracle harassment plus front pressure were both very good. That stuff was really good. Bad glitching. decision. Yeah, it's also bad again for retreat blink near ramp. It is messing up. Messes up versus ramps and force fields. Okay. It seems over the course of the series so far, over the course of these 11 games, the things that we found out is AlphaStar had most problems with force fields and ramps in general. It seems like the most mistakes were made in those types of situations. But it also got wins because of some of those moves too, right? Like, there's a lot of times where you give a ton of respect to a ramp as a human player because you have been hurt so many times trying to go up a ramp. You know? And then you look at a game like Mana versus AlphaStar in game number 1. Here, let me actually go into game number 1 because the ramp thing is another thing to talk about a little bit. Alright, so this is Mana vs. AlphaStar game number 1. I know I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but that's the way my brain works. So this is going to be the game where we see a heavy attack up the ramp against Mana. I believe it's a 4 game coming out of AlphaStar. This was definitely another one where it felt like AlphaStar could have lost. Isn't that a little bit interesting? It stays there and harasses for a moment with the probe, and then leaves. Look at that, it gets to 20 probes on minerals before it puts its 6th on gas. Obviously, if you're forgetting, it definitely does matter to get your income up. Just mentioning, you know, every time I've gone to the income tab, we can kind of see that AlphaStar always does have more income than his opponent. I think only one game so far we've seen it be equal. Let's go to AlphaStar's point of view.
I am here in the shadows. Research complete.
Mana is completely aware of what's going on. Should be feeling actually pretty confident right here. Okay, actually sees the Oracle. See, most humans look at this and say, oh, that's tough. Now, that doesn't mean that you won't necessarily push it still. Obviously, if you're going 48. I guess the part that's kind of interesting to me is we saw the Oracle. We literally saw the Oracle in the natural, and we don't see a shield battery going up. It's not like AlphaStar is broke.
I am here in the shadows. I am here in the shadows. I am here. Your probes are under attack.
You can't tell me that this Stalker at home is better than a shield battery at home and this Stalker up in the battlefield. Especially when you got money like that.
Let our enemy know are under attack. I am here in the shadows.
This game reminded me a lot of my my StarCraft 1 games that I play, right? Because a lot of times you'll be in a situation. Here, let's look at the in-game to talk about it a little bit. So you'll be in a situation where you're like, okay, I'm doing everything right? I got an Oracle over here. How many kills? That Oracle got 13. Are you kidding me? 13 probes? That's awesome. That is a huge amount of kills. And, you know, you have shield batteries up here. You're microing while on your ramp. You have a sentry. You're going for immortals. And then the guy just walks up your ramp, right? Now, it's interesting, right? Because AlphaStar, before it knew what Mana was doing, chose to go for a 4-gate, okay? So I would say that this was actually good. It went up the ramp, right? I'm gonna erase this. Could it backfire? He was committed. AlphaStar was committed here, right? If you're playing against someone that has Stargate tech and is now getting Robotech, and you literally just went for 4-gate, and your opponent has killed 13 of your probes, you're not going to sit at the bottom of the ramp and be like, it's okay, I'm going to bring this into a longer game. No, you have to go up and try to finish it. So I think that this decision making can't be faulted. Now, to mention, yeah, the lack of the shield battery in the main base, right? So, I mean, I've definitely watched a lot of stuff on like AlphaGo and whatnot, and how it's talked about. It doesn't care how many points it wins by, just that it wins. This I don't see as being like that. The lack of shield battery, because it warped in a Stalker at home to defend, and there it is, right? It's coming back. But one shield battery is actually like less expensive and quicker. Yeah, it's just there's no way that when you're hitting this quickly and you know it's going to be one Oracle, not two, there's no way that a shield battery isn't better than that Stalker at home. So I gotta say that was not a good play by AlphaStar. But I feel like this is almost like a lesson, this game. In decisiveness. It's like if you've chosen the strategy, you live by the sword, you die by the sword, right? You got to go up that ramp. You got to go. It doesn't matter if it's scary. If people oftentimes don't choose a strategy like that because it is going to be so risky and so all in. But I think that was not a bad call. Let me see what other things I thought were really interesting. Oh yeah. There is something I want to check out. I actually wish I had paid more attention on some of these other games to it. Probes in battle. I think that the idea of workers being in battle is a very cool one. Let's check out. It is Mana's game number 2. I think if you're going all in, someone asks, what do I think about the double proxy gate as opposed to one? I think that it's fine. First off, if you're basically going all in, if you're saying, I'm going to win with these stalkers or lose with these stalkers, which, you know, forcing your way up a ramp like that is oftentimes going to be the case. In fact, if you 4-gate in general, that is, if they didn't make a nexus, if they like threw down a nexus, I feel like that's a game that can transition. If they went for tech in their base, on one base, you must finish the game at that point because you're not going to hurt their economy at all, and they're going to have superior tech. So I think that the proxy 2-gate is completely fine. It saves you just the tiniest amount of minerals because you already have a probe that's idle over there to make it with. And it hides it from your opponent maybe a little bit more. Because they'll always be able to scout your main. They might not be able to scout the gates. So I think it's solid. Alright, let's take a look. This one. So this is game 2 between Mana and AlphaStar. Okay, so specifically, this was kind of a cool game. For micro, the micro of AlphaStar with Phoenixes in this game is just out of control. It's so strong. That's not exactly what I want to look at here. And oh yeah, I have a note here that this is the most human-like gas saturation that I saw. It was much more normal, I felt, than some of the other builds. And it's a Stargate build, so that makes sense in a lot of ways. So watch, right? Wait, maybe my note doesn't mean anything. Okay, getting a little bit more gas. Yeah, okay, there you go. It's got 6 on each before it hits 16 probes, right? 15 on minerals generally, and 3 on each gas. Whereas we had other games where AlphaStar went up to 20 probes on minerals before it went 3 on each gas. Those were more gateway-centric builds, and this is a Stargate build, so that makes sense. Which actually is kind of a funny thing, which over time, if this is something that AlphaStar prefers, that actually gives you a lot of intel when you scout, right? If all the AlphaStar agents will mine exactly the right amounts of gas for their build, in StarCraft 2 you can just click on the geyser and see how much gas that they've mined. So you can actually be like, oh, this is a Stargate build. Which, of course, over time the machine learning should figure out that you're doing that, I guess. And vary that? I don't know. Just as it went out of vision. Just the moment Mana's vision left, that Stargate went up. Good catch there. So again, the probe oversaturation really helps. 5 workers killed, still doing fine. Would it be better to make and cancel a building here? Actually, that's a very good question. We should talk about that. Let's do some math on that after this. Okay. Alright, so there is some ridiculous micro in here, of course, but we're getting right to the point that I wanted to. Okay, so right now, let's take a look at these armies. Looks like 4 Phoenixes for AlphaStar, 2 for Mana, but Mana has 4 more Stalkers. Looks like 5 are here, 2. Oh, there's the other one. Okay. So this is actually 4 and a Zealot versus 5 and an Adept. Is that right? Yes. But down 2 Phoenixes. So actually this is starting out with, I guess AlphaStar should have a slight edge. Okay. Unbelievable micro on those. Now here come the probes. Now this is pretty specific, right? 3 probes are coming down. I think so, because we definitely saw other games. We went over one earlier where, you know, all the probes came from the top during a big engagement, and all the Stalkers and Phoenixes came from the side. It was against Mana's attack with a Mortal Sentry that came up this ramp. This game 3 come out. So ridiculous micro on these Phoenixes. Just, oh my god. Best micro in the world right there. But yeah, these probes being in there. Now let's, you see that turnaround? It killed a probe. So a probe just ate 4 Stalker shots. Now look at the actual counts here, okay? Right, let's rewind it to 520. Okay, I guess I can't. I guess 519 is it. Okay. Okay. Okay, here we are. Let's take a look. Very Red Phoenix has 1 lift. We got 4 Stalkers here. 2 are missing their shields mostly. The other 2 are fine. Got 4 Stalkers again. We have these 4 Phoenixes. Okay, so regardless, you would assume that AlphaStar wins this, and obviously it does. There are more Stalkers on the way, though. But look, this doesn't mean nothing here, right? First off, let's take a look. AlphaStar is actually up by 6 probes right now, 3 of which are fighting. But little things like this are... I like little things like this. Watch this, watch this. Ready? Turn. Look at that. Look at how much damage this is taking. Only 1 Stalker shot over here. Right? You get 4 more Stalker shots on this dude. Right? Obviously it wasn't a target, it was a turnaround attack move. But still, that's significant damage. Especially when the numbers are this tight. This was 5 Stalkers. If 4 of them attack another Stalker, it is going to do better for you. So, bringing these probes out, I like that. I like it quite a bit. And he pulls around, and, I mean, he only loses 1 for that. That was cool. And this is the one that there's actually these amazing graphs. I really suggest you go to the DeepMind website and watch. They have a whole video that has both point of views, and it has the graphs of everything AlphaStar is thinking and doing and making decisions of, and what it considers its like chance to win. And after that battle, the chance to win goes almost to 100% for AlphaStar. So AlphaStar's just like completely confident at this point. Which anyone who has watched a lot of Phoenix vs. Phoenix PvP, you know that once you win a battle, you're feeling pretty darn good. So anyways, this is pretty straightforward. Pretty straightforward. Okay. I want to talk about something else here, because this is very, very interesting to me. Let me just make a couple notes on this game, though, first. What was bad here? Nothing comes to mind off the top of my head. That's okay. That's not really what I want to go over. Okay, so let's jump over here. Change the name of that. Extra probes. Okay, I think it's time to talk about this, because a lot of people have been talking about the probe oversaturation, what it means, and all this. I'm going to just really kind of throw out some numbers that are not exactly exact, but just like as a way to think about this. I want to get some ideas out there, and then I'll think about it more and revisit the subject later, and maybe some brilliant people watching this can break down some of the math. Anyways, so let's say that AlphaStar will go never less than 15 probes on minerals, right? That's a fact. It definitely keeps that mineral saturation really high. It won't like go down to 14 or 13 to get more gas early on. It'll always keep at least 15. Almost always goes to 20 on main, no matter what. Now, the 20 on main, this is giving plus 10% income. 16. Let's call it plus 10% income over an opponent's 16. This might not be exactly right? But it is giving additional income. I keep clicking on the income tab and taking a look, and it looks approximately. Maybe it's a slightly less than 10%. Maybe it's slightly over 10%, something like that. So let's call it, just for the sake of argument for right now, that these additional 4 probes on minerals are giving it plus 10% income. Okay. Now, human PvP. Wall at ramp. Now, this will lose you a few minerals in travel time. Just not many. Not many. Let me just write not many. But it does lose you a few. Okay. Make shield batteries. Like shield batteries specifically to block out adepts. Okay, so every time you make a shield battery to block out an adept, right? Canceling costs 25 minerals each time. Must have bank of 100 minerals to do it. Uses attention at 2 times minimum. Okay. So these are things about the building just exactly the right amount of probes, right? If you build exactly the right amount of probes, pretty much no matter what. Okay, there are ways that you can technically defend against adepts getting into your base, no matter what. But let's say that you're playing a standard human style PvP, right? Yes, this is correct. There's also 1 idle probe at ramp. Okay. I guess that should go under here. Okay, anyways. These are not no cost. Okay? None of this can be transferred to natural. Okay, so yeah, let's look at this one more time real quick. Okay, so AlphaStar is having plus 10% income generally speaking. If the adepts get in and it's bad, let's say they kill like 5 probes, and you're going to lose some mining time. Okay, so yeah, that's something. Also, you're going to need to make sure that you're watching for them, and like if you don't have like 2 stalkers at home, they're going to really wreck you, right? So that's something for sure. So these are all things you definitely have to consider. I'm not saying that AlphaStar's way is necessarily better, but I guess the main things here, if you are not overbuilding probes, is you have 16, right? You're gonna have 23 probes. It's 6 on your gas, 16 on your minerals, 1 at the wall. The 1 at the wall you're gonna have to watch consistently. If you have 1 at the wall, it means you're not really leaving units at home. Maybe you have a sentry. That definitely could be. I've seen people do that, but even though normally you'll bring your sentry with your units after you send out your hallucination, you could. Let's say you could. But yeah, you don't really have units at home, so you have to hit the wall no matter what. It's going to make you give your attention to it twice. If the adepts want to stay at the wall, you have to make more units there, right? Because you can't let the shield battery finish, so you're going to have to. Or bring units back, right? Both those can be annoying. 25 minerals, that's half a probe cost every time that you have to cancel one, and obviously you have to have that bank of 100 minerals to make it, plus the attention, plus the idle probe. And obviously, all these costs do stack up to some amount. I'm not going to pretend that I know exactly what that amount is, or what the average of that amount would be, because it would be different in each game. But the way that AlphaStar does it, you can transfer these probes to the natural, so they actually have a longer term value in many ways. And let's say you do lose 5 probes, right? So that's going to be 250 minerals worth of probes, but your overall income is going to decrease by about 10%. But that's going to equal your opponent's income at that point, and he's lost 2 attacking units, 2 army units, to periods of the gateway building, right? Which actually, resource-wise, is going to be more than the probes cost, right? Yeah. So here's my initial thoughts on these extra probes and what this means and what this does. I guess in addition to this, it's going to make you. Let's look at some other things. This is okay. Verse adepts. Verse oracles. Okay. We should also think about wall verse No wall. Because it's not just about losing some mining time, right? There's some other things going on here too. If your opponent, like, let's say you're playing against verse 3 gate Robo, you will lose your gateways. And that's with wall. No wall. Verse 3 gate Robo. You will not lose your gateways. All right. Yeah, no, I mean, there's starting to be, and the thing is, I don't know why AlphaStar decided to play like this, but, you know, it's an interesting thing. I think that just thinking about the way that AlphaStar has learned and come to whatever conclusions it has and plays the way that it does, it's a more valuable project for your brain to kind of think about this and study this for a little bit than it is to study any pro gamer right now, because we all study pro gamers all the time. But all pro gamers are humans. We all learn from each other, and you know, have a lot of similar goals and stuff. Whereas this is like an alien brain that has figured this out, right? So it thinks about everything in a different way, and we're not sure exactly what it's valuing or how it's thinking about things, but looking at it and saying, okay, there's something valuable here because it beats some pro gamers. It's obviously good. It's obviously a very strong AI, artificial intelligence, right? And whether you want to look at the fact that some of its games were won through Inhuman Micro or not, that doesn't really matter because it got into positions where it could win those games, right? The early game was strong enough with or without micro. Like the TLO games, it didn't really have the best micro, right? But it still was able to live through the early game and prosper from the early game. So I think it's really interesting to kind of try to think about how did it do these things and what did it do that was a worthwhile takeaway, or how can we think about this? Why might this be good? Try to figure out why might it be good to overmake some probes? Why might it be good to not wall in PvP? Right? Because, I mean, yeah, we figured out all these things that we do. You know, that's a great way to stop adepts, is this wall. I tell you, when they first took away the mothership core, I was losing to 2 adepts for my first 10 PvPs. I lost every game, and then someone's like, just wall every game. I'm like, okay, I'll just do it, right? Because it wasn't even common before that. But there are ways that you see that abused, you know? These Robo 3 gate builds, they'll just bust both your gates. You know, everything will be clunky up there. You'll be in trouble trying to come down your ramp and stuff. Force fields are going to hurt more. But, you know, a lot of these games, it feels like, you know, let's talk about verse oracles real quick, right? If oversaturated, I mean, you're still going to have probes left. If you're undersaturated, if, let's say, if normal saturation, 4 to 5 kills can almost end the game. AlphaStar was regularly losing 4 to 5 probes here. And the thing is, I feel like there's improvements to be made. Like that 4-gate game, just make a shield battery in your main. Oh my god, look at that. If you have, yeah, I mean, I guess, hold on. Okay, so plus 10% income over an opponent with 16. So it's like, it goes something like 950 minerals per minute, I believe, is how the measurement chart goes in the game. And that would be verse, like, let's call it 1050. Again, my numbers might be just slightly off. But, you know, at this rate approximately, wouldn't this just take 2.5 minutes to pay off the extra probes? So if it takes 2.5 minutes to pay off these extra probes, right? How quickly do you get up to this number? Because hold on a second. Okay. A normal Nexus timing Normal Nexus timing. Let's call it 3:05-ish. That's a quick one. Very quick one. Yeah, it's approximately right there if I'm hitting my numbers right in my head. So I mean, that's how quickly do you actually get up to this many probes? You are actually not really losing that much, right? Making these extra probes. Now, something you might be losing here is a little bit of tightness with adding an extra building. Like if you want to do a 3-gate or something, I could see that happening. Yeah, this is a very interesting problem, and people will point out, you know, you don't have the 4 probes instantly, so it's not exactly. It's not exactly 2.5 minutes to pay off, right? You gotta, because first you have 1 extra, and then you have 2 extra, and then you have 3 extra, and then you have 4 extra. So that's going to take extra time because it doesn't start when you start the first probe. But yeah, and then the fact that you can transfer them, the fact that you're stronger against certain types of harassment and stuff. Yeah, no, I don't know. It's an interesting thing to think about, though. I think we definitely can't throw it out, right? We can't just take this this thing that AlphaStar does and say it's completely useless. And I'm not. The way I said that, it makes it sound like I think it might be useless, but I actually don't. I think that even if this is something that doesn't get picked up by humans, even having to prove why it might not be optimal in and of itself would be beneficial, right? But it might be optimal. It might have places that you want to use something like this. Anyways, yeah. This is some really interesting stuff. I have really enjoyed this entire situation. Looking at these AlphaStar replays, getting you to cast that as well. Yeah. Okay, well, I think that is going to pretty much conclude today, my analysis of AlphaStar. I have a lot of things I want to think about more now. I'm not married to any opinions and thoughts and theories that I've thrown out there today. I got to kind of go back and think about it, and if anyone has any input, please do let me know. Yeah, I think that this has been a really kind of eye-opening, analyzing a bunch of these replays and trying to figure out what are the patterns here, what is the way in which the AI agents are thinking, and what are they doing that might be good and helpful and beneficial. This is definitely something I'm going to be playing with a lot in the coming weeks. I'm going to be really messing around with how many probes I make. Not just in Protoss vs. Protoss, but overall, because I think that this is definitely something worth our time to look into. I guess the other thing that I did want to talk a little bit more about today, but maybe I'll leave it for another time to think about it more, is the amount of pressure that AlphaStar was putting on and how that can cover a lot of weaknesses that it has in other areas. Like I talked a lot about scouting and how it doesn't have the best scouting, and the pro gamers said that as well. I remember that's why TLO went for the gateway in its base, right? Because it doesn't really check everything. But just keeping pressure on can give you a lot of information as well. But I guess that's something we can talk about another time. All right. This has been really fun. I want to thank everyone for watching. And yeah, I'll see you guys later.